themselves. And then we're going to step right into a panel where we're going to address the future kind of projections in certain fields throughout the cannabis industry. So without further ado, the first person that I would like to introduce is going to be Miss Amanda Barton.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Amanda Barton. I'm an attorney. I just opened up my own law firm. Prior to opening my own law firm, I worked primarily in the finance industry. I'm very interested in the cannabis industry and have gotten involved over the last several months with CannabisLAB. It's a wonderful organization, so if you're not a member, please come out and join. We'd love to have you.
Thank you, Amanda. Next we have Ms. Quincy Quintar.
Hi guys, thanks for coming. This is not working. Is it?
Give it to me.
Hold it.
You gotta hold it. It needs to be real friendly.
Hi, I work with Green Lane. I've been with them for about 8 months now, and don't know if anybody knows about Green Lane, but we are a small and upcoming company up in Broward, or in Boca Raton. We are one of the leading distributors of consumer product goods that enter into the accoutrements in the dispensaries, in the smoke shops, and in the head shops. So I'm the Vice President of People, Culture, and Talent.
Woo. Thank you very much, Quincy. Miss Paula Savchenko. Where are you, Paula?
Come on down.
Yeah, that needs to be.
Hi, my name is Paula Savchenko, and I'm the Vice President of CannabisLAB. It's a great group. I've been involved for about a year now, and I've met a lot of great people. So if this is your first event, please keep coming. I'm an attorney with Moffitt and Danini. We do regulated substances, administrative law, and tax defense. So if you have any questions in that area, please let me know. Feel free to reach out. That's about it.
Thank you, Paula. Daniel Sparks.
Hey.
Fired up.
How's it going? My name is Daniel Sparks. I'm the principal of Sparks & Co. We're a public affairs brokerage firm in the cannabis space. I've been involved in the legal cannabis industry since 2009 with the beginning of the medical program in Colorado, and been operating in the state of Florida since the low THC days, 2003, 2004, and happy to be here.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Haley Weigel, who is with Allison South, our marketing sponsor.
Good evening, guys. My name is Haley. Allison South Marketing Group is headquartered in Augusta, Georgia. So I'm relatively new to Florida. I've been here about 2 years. We specialize in brand strategy and brand management, and my specific expertise is in social media. So I've been working with Robert and Nicole, had a great conversation with Amanda today, kind of trying to figure out how to navigate this space as we're fighting to get just the word cannabis out in the world. So that's me.
Eric and David Ron. The Ron.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Ron with S2S Insurance. My father over here is Eric Ron with S2S Insurance, and we deal primarily with directors and officers insurance, property and casualty, anything that would be dealt with in the insurance space once that seed goes into the ground to once you make that transaction over the counter. That's what we're here for. We're here to insure companies, and we love CannabisLAB. We've been with CannabisLAB for almost over a year, and we can't wait for 2019 to come and just take it away.
All right, Mr. Bob Riley.
Hey. Come on, let's go. Here we go. Yeah, I'm Bob Riley, publisher of Highlight Magazine.
What's that?
What's that? Yeah, all right, Zach. Taking selfies over there. I'm publisher of Highlight Magazine. I started High Life 4 years ago trying to educate people on cannabis. So this is my brainchild, my love, my passion, is this magazine to try and educate people in the industry to be able to be, to be able to help mainstream this message. And I also have High Life Advertising Agency, so we do marketing for cannabis brands as well as other people. And I'm a little nervous right now, so because I'm normally not in front of the camera, I'm usually behind the camera. So
You're doing a good job.
All right, Mr. Zach Coburn.
Hey everybody, my name is Zach Coburn. I'm General Counsel, Chief Compliance Officer at Knox Medical and Consortium Holdings. I've been working in this space since pre-license days in 2013, 2014. Been, not only in Florida, but now multi-state, multinational. I've been working with Rob and CannabisLAB as they continue to expand. Happy to finally see events in Broward County, so it's not that far from my house. Yeah, so it's I'm fortunate to be in-house and happy to work with any of the groups and any of the folks here. So.
Thank you very much, Zach. And last but not least, I am very pleased to introduce our president, Mr. BJ Chosky.
Thank you, Nicole. Give it a round for Nicole. She's doing an amazing job. So yeah, I was licensed 2016, joined the firm Kelly Cronenberg. As soon as I joined, we had a regulated substances division in the firm. I took it upon myself to tackle that division, position myself to lead that division in a short period of time, and recently transitioned to compliance manager with Grow Healthy, which is owned by Ianthus, which is one of the largest cannabis companies within the United States. We're in 11 states. We're eclipsing to almost over $1 billion market cap, and just very excited to be within the industry and start getting to work and grow healthy, make and grow healthy. That's it.
All right, so thank you. We are very excited to have these professionals on our board. I think that we have the cream of the crop. We really have 2019 lined up. If you haven't visited our website, joinclab.com, we have all of our monthly seminars for the entire year already posted. So every month they're gonna be like this. We have networking, and then we're gonna have an educational panel based on all of those different subjects that we have listed. So tonight we are going to focus on our projected futures in certain industries here. So I'm gonna ask Mr. Eric Ron to please come up. You're part of the panel, come on. Amanda from Grow Healthy. Janet Sparks. Quincy Quintana. 3, 4, and BJ, you. And Zach.
Where do you want me?
Yeah, where am I sitting
Zach, BJ, you don't get to sit.
Oh, I don't get to sit. Amanda, please.
All right, so BJ is going to be our moderator for this evening, so I'll take it away. Here you go, my friend.
Awesome. All right, guys, appreciate you spending the evening here with us at CannabisLAB. This is our first event of the year in a beautiful venue that Rob and Nicole, and along with myself and Dan and Quincy, and we all organized it. So please enjoy the drinks and the appetizers, and let's just go ahead and get into it. As you look at the medical marijuana cannabis market as it stands today, we're in a new inflection point. We're past that tipping point, and where cannabis is a household name, right? So we are entering the market in a new type of environment here in Florida, where recreational is on the cusp, horizontal market's on the cusp, smoking is on the cusp. So it's an interesting point. And we have experts on the panel that kind of shed light on what we're going to be entering in 2019 and beyond. So I wanted to start it off with Daniel, because Daniel has started Sparks Consulting. And what has recently happened is the Farm Bill passage. And I want to ask Daniel, could you shed some light on the recent Farm Bill passage and what that implicates for the industry as a whole on a national level, and then also tune it to Florida?
Absolutely. So on December 7th, the president signed, on December 7th of 2018, President Trump signed the 2018 Farm Bill. And for purposes of hemp, related to hemp, this removed hemp and its derivatives from the Controlled Substances Act. So one of the most important issues associated with it being not being a controlled substance is interstate commerce. So up until this point, hemp products are in the stream of commerce. However, where they were derived from and the THC content is what dictated whether or not they were able to be sold. So now the THC content of 0.3% THC or less is what classifies one cannabis plant as not hemp versus hemp. And that is the only distinction as far as the makeup of the plant that separates it between the two. So also within the section of the Farm Bill relating to hemp, it says that the individual states are to come up with a plan to monitor and regulate how hemp is cultivated, processed, and ultimately sold within that given state. So the state of Kentucky, their agricultural commissioner has actually already put forth a full plan on how that state plans to monitor and regulate hemp within its borders. Kentucky has been historically at the forefront of hemp cultivation, and that doesn't surprise me that their agricultural commissioner was ahead of the ball as far as already having written a plan for that state to participate in this market and to participate in the nationwide and potentially international market for hemp. So as it relates to Florida, we have a new governor, Ron DeSantis. We have a new agricultural commissioner, Nikki Fried. Nikki ran on a platform of cannabis and hemp law reform and to bringing the state of Florida to the forefront of this industry. And I have no doubt that she will be a big force in that. We actually have with us tonight Green Roads. Green Roads is the partner with the University of Florida for their hemp pilot project. That is starting immediately, as far as I understand. Plants will be going into the ground soon. And this law was actually passed prior to the Farm Bill being signed. And this law, the hemp pilot project, is being run through the University of Florida currently, and FAMU is going to be having their own pilot project as well. And this is for cultivation of hemp, the creation of hemp-based products, and the determining what strains and what cultivars of hemp are best suited for different climates within the state of Florida, and best suited for the industry here in general. So right now in this room, there's some people here that are very much on the tip of the spear for the hemp industry in the state of Florida, and definitely looking forward to seeing what's happening in the legislative session starting in March with some hemp bills, different possibly differences of opinion as far as how hemp should be regulated and offered in the state of Florida, or what types of business licenses, so on and so forth. So it's definitely going to be a very active legislative session and year for the state of Florida and nationwide as it relates to hemp.
Awesome, thank you, Dan. So with that said, Florida has a new governor in town, Ron DeSantis, and Zach, I'd like to go ahead and pass the mic to you just to comment on, your projections on this new administration, how it intersects with Nikki Fried, and how you think Florida will evolve to Q2, Q3, and moving forward.
See how politically correct I can be.
It's okay, we're bipartisan, just go ahead.
I
Say
think
how
that
you
the
feel.
new governor and the new commissioner of agriculture are doing fantastic jobs already and are gonna do a fantastic job. How's that? No, so I think there's a couple things at play that you have to look at. I'll start with Nikki, and I'm probably a little more biased than most. I've known Nikki most of my whole life, so I think Nikki is a force to be reckoned with, and I think she's going to walk in there and see where she has the opportunity to effect change, not only immediately but also on a long-term basis, whether that is with the hemp industry, or other areas within the medical cannabis space that are not already within the purview to the Department of Health and the existing program. I think the obvious is, look, there's politics and there's money and there are large corporations at play here. So I don't want to get into, no pun intended, the weeds of the ongoing lawsuits. I know that the new governor has, there's been signals that, he may take certain positions, at least on the current lawsuits, less from a ideological or policy position and more from a purely economic, the state shouldn't be continuing to fight lawsuits. I couldn't speak to that either way. I'm not going to try. I think that there is a large push within the state now, and I think what's going to be very interesting is less what you're going to see the Commissioner of Agriculture do, and less what you're going to see Governor DeSantis do, and more what you're going to see the interplay with the legislature. The reality is that that's where it's all going to start and stop. I don't think the governor is going to necessarily push for certain policy positions, so I think a lot of it will fall onto the legislature, how they interpret a lot of these issues. There are a lot of issues that the courts may have said one thing or another, but those are a lot of open-ended issues. Whether or not you believe the entire law, Amendment 8A was unconstitutional, that's up for debate. And that's a legal debate that lawyers could spend years debating and still not come to a full conclusion. But I think beyond Nikki and beyond Governor DeSantis, I think the real issue to watch is, where's the legislature gonna fall? Where's Chairman Rodriguez gonna fall? Where's the Senate gonna fall on the issues? And then also, to be honest, who the next Secretary of Department of Health is. Most people don't realize Governor DeSantis has named almost every agency director except for the Department of Health. That's actually one of the hardest ones to appoint because it requires a doctor. That requires a doctor to take a pay cut and move to Tallahassee. This is why it's hard to fill. So one of the problems that a lot of people don't realize is the Department of Health took a lot of flack for how it implemented the policies in the last few years. What most people didn't realize is it had no direction from the past administration. Since the start of the low THC program in 2014, I think the Department of Health saw 2 or 3 separate new secretaries come in, and no support that I believe from the past governor's office. It'll be very interesting to see not just what I said with the legislature, but how much leeway this new governor gives the incoming Secretary of the Department of Health to really fully implement programs. I think that's going to be what's very interesting to watch. I think, look, anyone with $400 can file a lawsuit, so there's always going to be lawsuits challenging. But I think it's going to be, those are 2 issues I think I'm really keen on watching. legislature and then how much arm's length distance the new Department of Health is going to get. And then, you know, on the hemp side, I think there's a huge opportunity in Florida. I know you mentioned Kentucky. Other states like West Virginia, a few other states are moving very fast. You know, and you have to realize that for a lot of these states, these are states that see an entirely new business opportunity. It's agribusiness. You know, Kentucky, if crops aren't growing one way, you know, that's why there's a huge push for hemp growth. Same in West Virginia with, you know, coal mining. It's a shift, it's a new industry. Florida has an opportunity, you know, I'd like to see where that, you know, are they gonna take the lead on it? Are they gonna step out? Because what you pointed out with the Farm Bill is it allows for a lot of things, but still doesn't touch infused products. So, you know, CBD infused drinks and foods, that's not exempt from the Farm Bill now. And it still requires each state to implement their own plan and have that approved by the US FDA. So I'd like to see Florida actually maybe take a step forward on that one and view it really, and this is kind of a CLAB thought also with the idea of, you know, law, accounting, and business, not just from a policy perspective, but for the business opportunity that's there as a new, you know, agribusiness cash crop. You know, I'd like to see Florida step up on that. Those are the three things I'm kind of watching, at least coming into this legislative session.
All right, appreciate that. Awesome. So with that said, I'd like to go ahead. You guys obviously took off your Thursday night to join us here today, so I don't want this to be a one-way type of discussion where we're over here sitting up here talking to you. So please, if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand. I'll go ahead and call on you. But with that said, I'd like to go ahead and pass the mic to Quincy. Quincy, being at Green Lane, you have a particular perspective on the Florida market and beyond. As far as devices and new ways of ingestion, can you just speak about what's on the horizon from a product innovative point of view and how potential people who are interested in entering the space, what they should be looking out for?
Hi, everybody. So, it's a pretty loaded question. I'm gonna try to break it apart. So in the device industry, there's a lot of different ways that people can ingest the product, and we refer to it as the product. There's the flower, there is the concentrate, there's the distillates, there's shatter, I've learned a whole new vocabulary by the way. And so to his question, you know, what do we see happening in the Florida market and what do we see happening in the industry as a whole? And what opportunities might there be for people who are exploring business opportunities with these kinds of products? In the Florida market, again, we are a state that's regulated strictly for the medicinal part of the flower of the product. And so as a result, it's the products that we have must be something that can assist the individual who has the necessity to medicate with the flower, find a product within our catalog that they can utilize for the delivery system. We have over 2,500 SKUs in products. So I think we probably have something for everybody. So to that point, as far as the Florida market is concerned, we distribute throughout the whole United States and Canada. South Florida's where we sit and where our headquarters is at, but we touch all four corners of the US, and now we're touching all four corners of the Canadian market, which, by the way, October 17th blew up. So as far as business opportunities, we offer opportunities for people to come to us and buy wholesale. We have exclusivity with a variety of different brands that we represent, and people who are brought in as wholesalers can distribute those particular products, you know, through their business. because of our exclusivity. So that's one way you can become a wholesaler. If you open up a dispensary, or you open up a head shop, or you open up a vape shop, again, we are a company that can provide all of those things for you. We also are starting to branch out, and we're starting to do things in the setup of the shops and giving them assistance with merchandising the items that they want to move through their business. So there's those kinds of opportunities. If you are a creative individual and you're able to come up with a device that is not yet on the market, our company is very open to taking a look at those kinds of things. So a lot of opportunities, not only in the South Florida market, beyond in the United States. This industry is here to stay. It is going to grow. If you have not gotten on the train, get on it, because it's left the station and it's not going to stop.
So with business, you know, there's two things that you need to consider. One, advertising, two, insurance. So to that point, I'd like to go ahead and pass the mic first to Mr. Ron and then to Amanda. Ron, if you could please speak to what essential insurance initiatives should business be considering when they're first launching? And Amanda, what social media perspectives and advertising initiatives could business utilize when first starting to scale?
Good evening. So when it comes to insurance, we're no different than any other industry. You need the basic insurances to run a business. So by example, you need workman's comp for your employees. You need product liability for any products that you would sell. Now that the Farm Bill's here and we're talking about transportation, you now need what we call cargo throughput. You need general liability. The big new buzzword in insurance these days is cyber defense. It's the new general liability because everybody's selling on the internet. And you're taking customers' credit cards, or you're taking customer information, and you know, we know and hear every day on the news, companies get hacked, or they get their computers with malware, and all of a sudden you're shut down. So cyber defense is really taking over as the new insurance at any company, whether you're a cannabis company or just anybody who's doing business on the internet. You're gonna need cyber defense. Your property, your warehouses, your offices, and then a specialty subset that we have going on in this industry right now is a lot of people want to invest in cannabis companies. That's, you know, private equity and is throwing money at this industry right and left. And so as a company, if you're taking outside investment, you're going to want to make sure you have the right management liability policies in place. And what does that mean? So you're going to want directors and officers liability, which is going to cover your officers of companies and any outside directors that you have against wrongful negligence. If you're raising money in the Canadian stock market, or even just private equity through friends and family, it's going to insure against that transaction in case a shareholder comes and tries to sue you later for what they feel is a negligent act. It also provides for securities claims. So if you're now a public company and you're going to start reading this, unfortunately as a new industry, insurance relies on a lot of data. That's how we determine the risk reward of the premiums that are charged to a client. So right now, there's not a whole heck of a lot of companies offering insurance for the cannabis world because there's just not a lot of data out there. So there's a lot of pioneers in the insurance industry taking a risk in cannabis. And now we're starting to see some of these data points come in, and the way I look at this is the cannabis industry is in such an infancy. It really is the wild, wild west. And it's gonna take 5 years just to get to the point where states are having common regulations. Right now, all the states each state has their own set of rules. And over time, hopefully it will morph into, you know, either a federal regulated industry, or it will continue like state regulation, just like, which we don't want to see, but, you know, we look at, what was the last money boom industry that we saw?
.com.
No? No? State regulated gaming, casino gaming. It's not a federally regulated industry, it's state by state. But, and that's where I came from, so that's how I've seen this movie before. It's gonna take a while for this industry to grow up, and as such, institutions like banking, insurance, transportation, we're all have to gonna pivot into this industry with our eyes wide open, and we're gonna have to learn what this industry is about and adapt our rules to your industry. And that's what's happening right now. So the insurance industry on a whole, just to wrap up real quick, you shouldn't get into this business without insuring, because, you know, what makes you sleep well at night, all right? And you can play with that in your deductibles and the amount of insurance that you want to insure your company for, but most business requires that you have proof of insurance. So the thing to do is find a broker who understands this industry, not some, you know, run-of-the-mill PNC broker, because there's a lot of navigating you have to do. There's a lot of issues between each state, and there's a lot of issues from being a federally regulated industry. And right now, there's a lot of cross-border transactions that happen between Canadian companies and Canadian investors into US. So although we're just complicated, and it's gonna take a while to uncomplicate things and streamline it. But until then, you know, we're all gonna grow up together, and hopefully in the next 20 years, we're gonna see an amazing growth of this industry. So that's an old guy looking back from a 3,000-foot view, who's seen this movie before and saying, you know what, you're in a good place at a good time, you know, make the best of it, it's gonna be a wild ride.
Zach, I think you wanted to chime in.
I just want to jump in. I guess as someone who deals with this from a corporate level every day, and we were just talking about this before, I couldn't tell you I couldn't stress to you how important it is to find the right broker. And this isn't oh, my family's used this brokerage for 30 years, therefore I trust them. Yes, it's important to find a broker that you trust, but because the space is changing so much, there are a lot of questions that a lot of insurance brokers don't know to ask. That your typical insurance policy would be standard practice. For example, almost every insurance policy, they all have exclusions. They have a criminal acts exclusion. You know, if a claim derives from a criminal activity, then they can deny coverage. Not many brokers realize that simple one thing is one of the biggest fights they have to have with insurance carriers for us in this space, because technically we're violating the Controlled Substances Act. So I could not stress and agree with you more. Finding the right broker, and it's not just the friend and the family, but it's the folks that actually are understanding and at the forefront of what's going on within the space, and seeing the next new program and product out there. Because the last thing you want is someone filing a lawsuit and filing bankruptcy and losing your business.
That's do it, man.
So I just want to reiterate the question for you, Amanda. As starting a new business in the cannabis industry, what essential considerations should companies set out to pinpoint when scaling on a social media perspective or advertising perspective?
Yeah, so my name is Amanda Getchell, and I work at Grow Healthy and also with Ianthus Capital, which is a national cannabis company. I've been with the company about a year, so I've seen the social media grow from just setting up the pages to now having thousands of followers. So when we started out, we're in different states, so we needed to analyze each market. Florida is obviously a very different market than Colorado. So depending on the market, we had to see who we're targeting. There's no statistics on this, so we just kind of generalize it and go from there. But it's all trial and error, and as we all know, cannabis consumption and sale is federally illegal. So Facebook, who also owns Instagram, follows this policy. So we have to also be aware of this when we create content and our strategy. So to avoid this, we found that with Facebook's a little bit harder when we started out. So they are the ones who are flagging us, or we assume that it's Facebook, but it could be a competitor, and that's an easy way to get flagged. But there's a lot of times you'll see people just fly under the radar posting about sales, and we look at each other and we ask, how are they doing that? Because we got pulled down 5 times. So
That's it?
no, that's not it. Yeah, so because I'm working with a few different states, I've seen what works in different states, and some states are a little bit harder than others depending on the competitive market, if competitors are flagging you or pulling you down, but also just kind of seeing what works and what doesn't work. So what we've seen is Facebook is the hardest one, but it has the largest reach, and we're hoping that with the regulations being passed and adjusted moving forward, that we will be able to advertise on there moving forward. In the boosted posts and the advertisements you see now, we're not allowed to do. So right now it's all organic, which means we are just posting to our personal page, not personal, but on the company page, and really relying on that to go viral, or working really closely with our partners. So we do a lot of partnership marketing, which is probably our best friend with social media. So working with these advocacy groups and educational groups, and really having, we've set up agreements with them where they're promised to post X many posts a week, where we say we're posting all of our sales. So we're not actually allowed to say we're selling anything. So they are. So we'll send them a post saying 20% off this week. Can you post that for us? And if they post it, then we can repost it. So that's kind of a sneaky way around it, where we're not posting it, but somebody else is. So that's kind of where we're at right now, hoping that these regulations change in the future. But going off other social media, so obviously Facebook's large, and that's the biggest way we get our word out, but Instagram has been a really good friend of ours. So just because it's content friendly, but you also cannot advertise on there. So what we do is we post a lot about our products and what our company is, and that's really carried us pretty far. But we've had to create page after page, and unfortunately Facebook and Instagram, because they're the same owner, they won't tell you when you get pulled down or why you get pulled down. So you really can't tell why. So sometimes you're just left like wondering why you lost 20,000 followers, which is really unfortunate after you put in months of work into that. But I think everyone in this industry has seen this happen over and over. So you kind of just say, oh well, let's move on, let's make another page. So moving on is another issue we run into with Facebook and Instagram. So if your page doesn't get pulled, another potential liability is being shadow banned. And if you guys haven't heard about that before, it's when your page does not get pulled down, but instead it gets banned from anybody seeing it. So they call it shadow ban. So it's still live. If you've liked the page before, you can go see the page and see the content. You can see what they're posting, but you can't invite anybody else to it, and nobody else can find that page. You can't search for it. So you're pretty much stuck with the followers you have, which is,
Sucks.
yeah, it does suck. So you're stuck with these people. Say you got the page of 300 people, you can't grow that page. It's just kind of dormant at that point. So I mean, what we've done, so we have a company in Massachusetts that that happened to, and so we just kind of carried on business as usual, and been working with that 300 followers that we have, but we are working on getting another page up, because that's about all that we can do. And then another thing with Instagram is just creating backup pages is really all that we can do, and just always having a backup plan, because right now there really is no way to avoid it. Other than just really following the strict guidelines of Facebook and Instagram of not advertising blatantly. So that is kind of how we're finding the way around it. And then A really lenient way, which we've used not so much in Florida but in other markets, is Twitter. So Twitter has pretty much no regulation on cannabis, so you can just tweet out 2-for-1 special on cartridges at noon. So then they won't report you. So we found, yeah, I want that special. But so it's been pretty interesting, and it's not the traditional marketing that any of us have really seen, or you're not going to be bombarded with the ads like normal. So really, partnership marketing is the key to our marketing strategy and a lot of our competitors and colleagues. So really just looking at your neighbors and saying, how can we work together? And that's why events like these are so important, is just learning how to help each other out, because we're all in this together, we're all struggling, and we're all trying to pave the road. So trying to figure out what to do until Facebook catches on to what the rest of us are doing. So
What are you doing for data acquisition?
So the question was, what are you doing for data acquisition?
so for data, which
Like
kind?
from capturing your data from your social media?
So right now we're pretty much just doing all of our data acquisition like manually. So because the strategies aren't really firm and we can't really use any of the software that we want to. So we're planning on moving to marketing automation software where you can't do the traditional like lead gen and digital marketing strategy that usually you do, where you see an ad, you click on it, you follow it, and then you're nurtured as a potential customer. But for us, we're pretty much doing that all manually, which is very different. So us analyzing where we go next is pretty much just looking at Facebook and saying, this one was shared 50 times versus this one was shared 30 times, and then looking at who is engaging with it, which is really important, especially in this industry, especially in a small market like Florida, which is growing very fast. So it's important to be engaging with these people and not just pushing out information.
You had a question right here, John?
We have a question?
Yes,
Right here.
hi. With respect to what you're describing, you talked about all social media, where does LinkedIn fit into that 1-2-fold is CannabisLAB. I know we are targeting the law, accounting, and business in terms of promoting this association on LinkedIn, so.
Yeah, so as a cannabis company, I believe, well, we don't see, because LinkedIn is mostly a professionals network, we don't see the need to sell our product on there, but for an organization like this and other organizations that are advocacy groups or just networking groups, you are more than welcome to advertise. I don't think, because the only regulation is on selling actual cannabis. So as long as you're not selling cannabis on these social medias, you should be fine. So if you're saying we're having a weed smoking event, but we're not selling anything, I don't think they would even say anything. So you're more than welcome to do that.
I actually think LinkedIn is a fantastic resource because there's two areas within the industry that you see a lot of promotion to. I hate to say this, the typical person, stereotypical that you would see, but what a lot of people don't realize is, especially in a purely medical state, and this is talking economics to the business aspect, we're all in the business of making money. As much as we are also in the business of helping people, we are also in the business of, running our operations. Because LinkedIn, and I've spoken to other folks from other companies as well, because LinkedIn is so professional, geared and oriented, I've seen a lot of other companies that use it as a great tool and resource from that aspect, because the type of person that you are actually reaching out to and acquiring from LinkedIn as a professional, as opposed to someone who may be a great resource from a social media aspect to retweet your platform, but they may not necessarily be the best customer.
So if I can chime in on Zach's point, one of the things that organizations like ours might run into is, how do you find people that are familiar with the industry or are industry friendly? And LinkedIn has been a huge tool for us. I advertise our openings, and by the way, one of the things that was asked earlier, what do I see our company doing and growing in South Florida? we have a ton of career opportunities listed on our website. We are growing faster than we can keep up with ourselves. Just to give you an idea, January of last year, 2018, our company size was 100. We finished the company December 31st with close to 250 people. It's insane. You know.
Good for all of us.
I'm sorry?
That's good for all of us.
Yeah, so, you know, so those are other opportunities, career opportunities. And to Zach's point, the LinkedIn has helped me to reach out and find the professional individuals that have business experience and also industry knowledge across the whole United States and Canada. And I use it regularly. Without it, I don't know that I could be filling some of the roles that I'm filling. So LinkedIn, folks, is another amazing avenue. If you really are interested in this industry, whether it has to do with career opportunities, whether it has to do with business opportunities, there are articles that are published on there every day. I mean, I get pinged on my computer. I have a screen dedicated just for LinkedIn. I'm serious. I have someone here that works with me, and I have 3 screens across my desk. So one of them is LinkedIn, and it's constantly going. So check it out. Put your profile up there. Smile. Take a selfie. It works.
So we have another question back there.
Is there anything going on with bringing more dispensaries to Broward County? See, figured I'd open up that conversation.
Actually, me.
I'll take it.
Go for it. Yeah,
Well,
please.
Pass the mic, there we go.
certain cities have come out and allowed for dispensaries, while a lot of the suburbs, Plantation, Cooper City, you're not going to see a dispensary on Dania Pier. Deerfield, the 10th Street, or is it Hillsborough Boulevard, that corridor, US 1 and Hillsborough, Curaleaf, True Leaf is on Hillsborough as well. Vatican. Yeah, so certain cities are going to allow it in Broward County, and Fort Lauderdale should be expecting one soon. That city council has a very explicit rule regarding distance between dispensaries, so.
More than that.
What's that?
It's more explicit than that.
Well, 1 mile. 1 mile in Fort Lauderdale is a lot of, a big diameter, so.
I guess that's the question, what's
To your
preventing
question,
more
okay, so the
dispensaries?
legislature, when they passed the law, they said they preempted zoning, right? They said you treat it like a retail pharmacy, like, you know, brick and mortar CVS, or you can prohibit it outright. In a lot of cities, like you're saying, they've passed bans prohibiting it. Certain cities have taken positions where the law actually expressly says you cannot be more restrictive to the point where you are limiting access to dispensaries. So there are some cities that have passed certain ordinances that some think go a little too far.
Well, I'll give you an example. Wilton Manors.
I'm trying to be politically correct with the city.
Oh,
Listen,
What is that?
politically correct, I'm trying, but there's restrictions, massive restrictions.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
1,500-foot setback from schools, churches, places of worship, and then.
which is more restrictive than the state's law.
And then distances from each other. So
And
that
that
is
includes.
that is the major issue, those two things
How about
in
one per
conjunction.
commission district?
That's an issue.
Medical
And even better,
facilities, you can't
in the
be
city of
close
Fort
to-
Lauderdale, if you have a dispensary in Wilton Manors and it's within 1 mile of a potential location in Fort Lauderdale, you cannot have it in Fort Lauderdale. It doesn't matter if it's yours or a competitor's. If you are right across the border in another city, Fort Lauderdale won't allow it, even though it might geographically fall into one of their areas. But the cities are loosening up. You're starting to see it. I think you're starting to see the revenue. You know?
So there's gonna be a lot of action this year.
Is there
2019.
any action in place now to expand the dispensaries in Lauderdale?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there anything that the public should be doing to encourage that action?
Talk to your city council and city commissioners. Urge them.
I just advise.
Talk to Arby.
No.
No, I think actually, yes, talk to your local elected officials. I mean, that's where it falls down to. There's no access in western Broward County. I mean, literally from University Drive west, there is, you know, Sunrise is the only city I know of that's loosened up.
Let them know that you voted and that you vote.
Can they get delivery though?
Yes.
Yes, for a fee. For a fee.
Liberty delivers for free.
No,
Grow Healthy delivers for free, as well as Liberty.
Liberty delivers for free.
But they do deliver.
Yes, we had a question up here.
I just want to know what, CBD oil, the part that has no marijuana in it.
CBD oil?
Yes, what is there any regulations with that?
Arby.
You guys are the panel.
We defer to experts.
Well, there's really, Sparky, and I mean to interrupt, but Sparky was talking about the hemp bill. So there is, the regulations for CBD are still under, as Zach said earlier, food and dietary supplements are still not allowed. So whether the farm bill passed or not, it's still regulated. So it's going to be up to the state, which we are working together to help open this market up, whether it's a CBD, whether it's hemp, or whether it's the cannabis side. We're definitely trying to open it up. So there is still a lot of red tape in the middle, but I think it's going to be a big year for the industry across the board, whether it's hemp or cannabis, agricultural side, textiles. This industry is completely wide open. There's many opportunities as attorneys, as accountants, and business, whether it's real estate, getting a real estate property for one of the entities, or the business itself, whether it's a store, insurance, anything across the board. It's really so open right now that you could get involved to represent the industry, not specifically having to touch a plant, but really have your professional skills to actually help the owner actually get and have a business license.
What about online? I mean, can you ship it across
CBD,
to other states?
we're CBD as long as it has under 0.3. Right now, there is some states that have issues. Ohio is one of them. South Dakota is another one that has issues with you actually shipping there or having a store there. But we're working on that right now. But yes, I mean it's pretty open depending on what type of product, and as long as it's under the federal guidelines of 0.3.
Thank you.
Great, do we have any more questions before we wrap up? And with that said, I want to thank you for coming here and spending your Thursday night with us. I want to go ahead and pass it on to Nicole. She has some announcements to make concerning next month.
Yes, thank you guys very much for joining us this evening. I'm going to make a few announcements, but while I do that, I am going to pass, Amanda is going to pass this bowl around actually. If you guys would all like to drop your business card in it, we're going to do a raffle as soon as I'm done doing the announcements, and someone's going to win a delicious bottle of Wild Horse Pinot Noir. Woo! No, I wish. If next month somebody wants to do that, we'll definitely raffle that off. But Amanda's going to walk around, so if everyone can put their cards in there. We really, again, thank you, our panelists, for being up here, giving your insight. I'm sure when we wrap this all up, we do have this room until 9 o'clock, so I'm sure there will be a lot of networking, a lot of questioning going on. We really appreciate it. Please, everybody, make sure you do go to joinclab.com. If you're not a member already, we are doing 10% off this evening, so you will join as a member. Instead of $500 for an individual membership, we're doing $450. If you're doing $1,500, then it'll go so on and so forth as far as sponsorship, membership, and whatnot. I'm not a calculator. I see you laughing, Sam. I stopped that right there. But if anybody, this is a great program. We're a wonderful organization connecting businesses directly and indirectly involved in the cannabis industry. Our next event will be February 7th. Location to be determined, but most likely it will be in Boca Raton, since this chapter is currently a Broward and Palm Beach chapter. Our topic of discussion will be updates in the cannabis, hemp, and CBD industries. Also going a little bit more in depth into the farm bill that we touched on today. We're going to have an extremely diverse, very well-known panel that everyone's going to be extremely impressed with. So please be sure, if you're a member, you register early, and if you're not a member, you do become a member with us, because all of these monthly seminars that we do are free to you. Your CannabisLAB conference, which is our 4th annual CannabisLAB conference this year, happening October 25th through the 26th. It's a 2-day conference this year instead of a 1-day conference, with breakout sessions, all kinds of wonderful events that are happening, is included in your membership this year. So make sure you sign up. That's a $250 value that's included in your membership. So make sure you guys come and talk to us. We really look forward to learning, growing healthy, growing wealthy, growing smarter with all of you. Thank you guys. We look forward to seeing you at our next event. Happy networking. Enjoy the club. Thank you.